Sides are digging in for a protracted battle. Brad Dayspring is a senior advisor to the Young Guns Action Fund and former spokesman for House Majority Leader Eric Cantor. And Democratic strategist Doug Thornell is a former press secretary for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. Also worked for Chris Van Hollen. He joins me now. Both welcome.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
Let's start off with Ed Rogers, a GOP strategist and lobbyist, who said this in the Washington Post today about the Eric Holder versus the House Republicans. Quote, Holder is playing to lose if the GOP will let him. No Republican or conservative commentator should even raise it. The public tunes out when something becomes just another partisan squabble. Why isn't this more obvious to the GOP leaders? You used to work for a GOP leader, Brad. Is this distracting from the...
Not at all, and I think you need to step back and look at what we're dealing with here. Good politics isn't about payback, but this is about a border security agent who lost his life, and probably lost his life with a gun that was purchased by the United States government. And there are serious questions here, and one of the top responsibilities of Congress is oversight. And it is their job and their responsibility to get in and look at that.
You as a Democrat, do you like this, Doug? Are you able to say there's no jobs bill, this is simply a partisan payback issue for 2008?
Well, today marks 100 days since the Senate passed a transportation bill, bipartisan bill that would create about 2 million jobs. It's sitting collecting dust right now in the House. We've got student loan interest rates that are going to go up. House Republicans haven't acted on that. We've got several job provisions that the president has sent House Republicans. They haven't acted on it. Now, I agree with Brad that we definitely need to get to the bottom of this. And the administration has complied. They have turned over thousands and thousands of documents. They've sat for multiple hearings. There's no evidence of wrongdoing. This was a program that was started under the Bush administration that Eric Holder ended, and he's complied with almost all of their requests.
Brad, how much of this is red meat
just
the
crazy
base wants to have?
I actually don't think it's red meat at all. I think if you were asking a political strategist, should they go forward on this, there would be a big mix of opinion on that. This is their responsibility to do, and they're taking the appropriate steps forward, and they're going to look at it. And if Doug wants to talk about things collecting dust, I would look at the 30-plus jobs bills that House Republicans have passed that are sitting over on Harry Reid's desk.
30 talking points. I mean, that's all they are. They aren't going to create any jobs.
Jobs bills are a little more than talking points.
They aren't creating any. None of those are going to create jobs, and Republicans know that.
Let's talk about a theory that Nancy Pelosi had on the Eric Holder situation. She said this yesterday.
Don't forget, they're going after Eric Holder because he is supporting measures to overturn these voter suppression initiatives in the states. This is no accident. It is no coincidence. It is a plan on the part of Republicans.
Doug, is that an overreach right there? They're going after Eric Holder because he's going after voter suppression?
They're going after Eric Holder because they want to embarrass the president. They want to cause political problems for him. And that's what Republicans have said for a very long time. And if you remember, this whole strategy of trying to undermine the president and not do anything to strengthen the middle class began inauguration night when Republicans, including Eric's old boss, gathered at a fancy steak joint and basically plotted as to how to oppose the president every step of the way. And they've done that. And this is just part of a larger strategy to undermine him and not do anything on jobs and not do anything on the middle class.
Brad?
This is simply about a border control agent who lost his life and a family that deserves some answers, and it's up to Eric Holder to provide them. All the evidence right now points to one of two things: either Eric Holder's incompetent or he's not telling the truth.
I think he's turned over all the documents, and Republicans know that. They're just trying to keep this going. It's just like the Solyndra witch hunt they've got going, where there's no evidence of any wrongdoing. Republicans know this is a politically manufactured controversy, and they're just trying to score points.
Another big controversial issue coming to fruition, and it could be as early as today or next week. The health care ruling. Richard Murdoch, who is a Senate candidate in Indiana, posted some videos about potential responses to this ruling. Sadly, they all leaked out, and he had a response to whether or not it was struck down, part of it capped. Let's take a little bit of a listen.
We've had our brief moment of celebration because the Supreme Court ruled that Obamacare is in fact unconstitutional. But don't sit back and think the fight is over. Well, the Supreme Court has done what none of us really thought could happen. They've ruled Obamacare constitutional. Now the fight has moved from the courts to the United States Congress. The United States Supreme Court has done what none of us expected. They found an answer to the health care issue which basically led them to no decision at all.
And Speaker John Boehner wrote this memo to House Republicans about the health care law. Quote, if the court strikes down all or part of the president's health care law, there will be no spiking of the football. Brad, how big of an issue is this for the GOP not to look like they're trying to to be excited over a Supreme Court issue, keeping a somber tone. Is that going to be a problem for the rank and file?
No, I don't think it's going to be a problem, and I don't think it's something they're excited about. We're talking about an issue that's important to people. This is people's health care, and it's a serious issue. And I think Speaker Boehner, what he's referring to there is, I think he learned a lesson from the previous Congress, one that Doug worked in. If you remember the day that Democrats passed this unconstitutional health care bill, Speaker Pelosi led a parade, a victory parade outside the Rayburn office building. You kind of remember that.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. You know, it's interesting. First of all, Murdoch's taking more positions on health care than Mitt Romney, which I didn't think was possible. So the other thing is, let's step back and think about what we're talking about on health care. If this is ruled unconstitutional, if it's totally scrapped, we're talking about seniors who are going to have to pay more for prescription drugs. We're talking about kids who are now covered because when they didn't have it with the previous health care system. We're talking about small businesses who have tax cuts now, who can pay health care for their workers. I mean, we're talking about kids with diseases that they couldn't get coverage. Now they have it. So this is serious, and I do think that what we do know is that if it is scrapped, Republicans aren't going to do anything about it.
Are you going to replace it with anything?
Well, there's a lot of different provisions that are important and to look at, and popular ones. Pre-existing conditions being one of them. Buying insurance across state lines being one of them. What I can tell you Republicans won't do is repeat the mistakes of a previous Congress, which is overreach, ramming through a bill on partisan grounds, and doing something so large that they don't even know what's in the bill.
Well, but that's kind of what you did. That's what you did on your budget.
Want a step-by-step process, an incremental progress that helps people navigate through this complex health care.
You know, first of all, they rammed through their budget, dismantle Medicare and dismantle Medicaid. I think that there's no evidence that Republicans are going to do anything on health care except take us back to the system that we had before, and maybe they like that.
Doug Thornell, Brad Dayspring, two passionate individuals who care deeply about their causes. Thank you so much for joining us this Friday.
Thank you.
The nation's biggest banks waking up to some bad news this morning. The market rundown is coming up.